Hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome.
Everyone's filing on now. Okay. Ready when you're ready, Chief.
Good. Welcome to the 17th Ask the Chief Forum, the Global Edition. So, did I say everything correctly?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Okay, for starters, as we've been doing for a while, we're going to start out with a mini clearing exercise. If you can stand and do this, it's good. If not, that's okay. But just follow me. Breathe however you want to breathe. And two more. Now we're going to follow with the bump. You feel the energy between your hands. Distance approximately 12 inches apart. Feel that energy. If you're not feeling it, let me know. Okay, I'm going to boost that.
Saire's not feeling it, Chief.
Okay, Zaire, I'm going to focus on you. Okay, we got something going on there. You're going to put your hands just a little bit closer together and let me know when you feel it.
He feels it now, Chief.
Okay, terrific. All right, now I'm going to bump it for everybody. If you don't feel that bump, let me know. Okay, good, good. Now we're going to do containment. We're going to contain all that stuff that we pulled up with the first exercise. One, two, three, and one, two, three, and one, two, three. And we're going to start pushing that energy out of your space, all that density. Two, and four. Very good. Okay. Ms. A?
Yes, Chief.
We're going to get started, I guess. Today we're doing the muscle testing, and we're going to start out with questions. Later on, we're going to address some of the, I guess, the sayings. I guess we were.
Sayings and this question.
Yeah, sayings and questions. We're going to start with questions first, okay. And then we're going to go to segue into sayings. It depends on how long it takes for us to get through the questions. All right.
So the first question that we have is about. Would you like to do an introduction to this question, or should we just go with it?
With the introduction having to do with the Dunya Gaia Earth.
Yeah. Do you want that, or should we just go for it?
We can just go for it,
okay.
I think, and then I can explain it if it seems like it makes sense.
Okay. Anyway. So all natural disasters like tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, etc., is that Gaia fighting density, or is it density messing around and trying to tell us that it's Gaia and she is angry at us?
Okay. Yeah, that one has a lot of questions in it. The reality is that there's no one purpose, no one reason for anything that happens, but we can muscle test and just to get, just to break it down. As far as like, there has definitely been periods throughout history where density would affect weather. We even had a client a couple of years ago who thought that he was causing thunder when he would, do a certain movement, or he even thought that he was causing the trees to sway whenever he was doing his qigong exercises, and found that there was something happening. He's on the during the session. He says, I can make it thunder, and then you hear the thunder going on. But because of my ability to tap in, and Ms. A's ability to empath, that there was something very dense that was using him.
You knew before. You knew before.
Yeah, well, I knew before, but you actually, when you picked it up, that's when he got, chills went up his spine, because he was, I can make it thunder, and he's, raising his eyebrows like, I'm pretty cool, right? But I'm like, no, there's something up going on. You're not making it thunder. Something else is making it thunder. And Ms. A.
Well, because his energy was very pushy, and it had this really intense sexual energy, and I was like, where is that coming from? And I could tell that his game was to impress the ladies. So suddenly I just felt compelled to say, it's wrong, it's all wrong. And then you told him the truth. Yeah, so she's trying to figure out, it's wrong. Because he thought he was really being really, really smooth. Yeah. But however Ms. A tapped into it, it made him uncomfortable. He goes, what did she say? What did she say? It's like all of a sudden someone was seeing through his ruse. And he had a lot of this kind of odd sexual energy going on. And it was more about attracting women than anything, really mystical and spiritual. So what it was definitely had to do with some density that were manipulating the weather in that area. And so that he would, I guess, be able to attract more food is really what it was. Him attracting more food for density. So there are times when Gaia is definitely kicking some ass. Mm-hmm. So there are a number of tornadoes and things of that sort that'll happen, some really weird phenomena. But if there's locations, how you can tell really Gaia is literally affecting something, it depends on the location and what's there. We got a little bit of activity going on. 1 second. And I'm going to do protection around Ms. A before we get started with the muscle testing. Then she's already tapping into some things. Screening. Yeah, it's a lot of energy. Not the usual. And continue. All right. So, again, there are times when density in half or a long time would affect the weather. And there's a number of things because the other realm is just, there's so many different facets to the other side. If you think this world is complicated with different things that people do, occupations and so on and so forth, there's even more of that on the other side. So there's times when density is fighting amongst one another, where they'll do some really weird things, like you have birds falling out of the sky, or rain dropping frogs. Thunder clouds dropping frogs. That stuff is generally very dense stuff happening, and it does happen. And it's happened just even recently in the last 5 years or so, where there are reports of, all of a sudden there's dead birds falling out of the sky. That's usually something that has to do with density, disagreement with one another. And they don't eat, the frogs are not eaten by birds and nothing touches them.
Yeah, when frogs, this is one I think in Europe, right? Mm-hmm. With frogs or at least one that were like the frogs would do this thing and they end up exploding or something. Yeah, this is like recent. This is like last year, this particular story, but it's not the only one having to do with frogs, and the birds won't touch them. So you think it's like, oh, there's a lot of food for other creatures, but birds won't touch them because of the density and the energy and the vibration within that, within those animals that were being used for literally, it's like a curse. So if in other words, like I said, stop it, okay? Let's see, 1 second.
Angry because we're talking about your secrets.
Yeah, okay. You're always angry about me. But, so again, so a lot of that again has to do, there's different reasons. When it comes to Gaia definitely have been doing more controlling of weather, and say in the last maybe 7 years, 7 years, 7 years, last 7 years, she's been doing things, literally striking back, and also because the energy levels have been slowly eking up. It's one of these where she starts to do this and stretch. And so you'll feel or you'll see certain reports, and you guys are having a real hard time with this. So certain things, let's say massive hailstorms, she's got more in control of like tornadoes, hurricanes, and if you notice a hurricane going in a certain direction, then it changes the direction really quickly all of a sudden. Recently, that's more of a Gaia thing. Freak temperature, in other words, the temperature is getting really high in certain places, but not in others. So that's Gaia. That's basically Gaia. Or I use the term Dunya because that is actually the true name of the planet. Gaia means planetary consciousness. So I'll use the term Gaia, Dunya, and Earth, so those who aren't familiar understand that I'm talking about the same subject. What else was there?
There was a fire, a forest fire, and the man commented about it.
Oh, this was the Australian fire. Yeah, this is Australian fire, and someone who was there, I guess was trying to fight the fire. That one was straight up Gaia, and Dunya, Gaia, Dunya, Earth. And there was a man who was witnessing it, and he saw the flames shaped like, what does it say, like a beautiful woman or something? It says something like a beautiful woman. And there are consciousness, and there are stories that go back where it seems like a flame has a consciousness, the way that it'll move around when it's burning something, or flames that will actually literally jump from one structure to the other without just this line of flames going there, will literally jump. So consciousness takes place, it takes all kinds of forms. But those stories are back during the time when it had to do with density affecting more things then. So again, it's for me, I will sense when it's Gaia, and then I will sense when it's something that's not Gaia. And one thing, they had this, darn. Yeah, go ahead, Ruby. Oh, okay. That one. I like that subject. What was that, about 3 years ago, 4 years ago? Where the Notre Dame Cathedral caught fire in France and burned up. And well, now I think you're remembering a part I may be missing. Having to do with that. So I'm going to let Ms. A can speak up a little louder.
They said that the fire was like a freak fire because there's supposed to be a warning system when a fire starts in that cathedral, and the warning systems did not go off. And not only that, they said the flames moved so fast it was unnatural.
Yeah, and also there was some ancient wood or something that they had used as part of that structure that just got burned up. Just literally no signs of that type of, I guess, wood anymore on the planet, so they say. Also, within the spires, I don't forget what the spires were built from, but there was lead in the center of all these spires. in the temple as well.
Incredible amounts of
Yeah, like like an incredible amount of lead.
Sorry.
Inordinate amount of lead, which has to do with that place sitting on a major vortex and using lead. Lead's been used for a lot of different things, but we can get into that in some other. We definitely will get into it now, but anyway, but on another form, not now. Well,
Can I ask a question, Chief?
yes.
I'm also here. So you said that some natural disasters are coming from Gaia. For example, if there is a tornado and people die, is that, I don't know how to ask this question, but is that Gaia's intention, or does she like care about us humans, or why would she cause a tornado or a tsunami when people could die from that?
Well, with this one, if you are reduced to being literally a virus and you have no awareness of Gaia, Dunya as a consciousness, you will be subject to being eliminated like a virus be eliminated. There are cultures who still, ones that have been minimizing for centuries, who still understand Dunya Gaia, Earth, as a consciousness. And you'll find that they don't have the same issues. Even the island I think we talked about, I talked about maybe a month or two ago, there's this island off the coast of India, that region, and it's Sentinel Island. And when the tsunami came through back in the early 2000s, they were in that same path. And so, under the guise of human aid or whatever, they tried to find, okay, this is our opportunity to get on this island that they won't let anyone land on. These folks who live there don't let anyone land on their island. And if they do, they end up getting killed or almost killed or chased off. And even the waters around there, they are very, very protective of the waters around there as well. And so the tsunami went through, and we all need each other and all this. They showed up there and they said, you better get the hell out of here. So whether they had losses or not, I'm not sure, but they weren't desperate about the whole concept of transition. So what you're talking about is a fear of death, fear of transition. If you understand, transition means consciousness changing this, moving from this expression to another expression. So as far as with, feeling like Gaia is angry, don't understand that this has been a long time war against Gaia for thousands of years.
Mm.
So humans will kill a hell of a lot more people than Gaia has ever killed.
That's true, yeah.
So we're talking about exploding volcanoes, tsunamis, hurricanes, and all of that. I doubt very much if Gaia has killed 100 million people in the United States alone in the whole time that people have been living in the United States. So it's your perspective of how you see things, how you've been trained to see things, how they put these blinders on, and it's just totally effing ridiculous. So, I should care for people. I should care for people, and that's the program that you kind of pulled up there. We should care for people. But I mentioned this before, and I don't know if you were on any of those forums, earlier forums, where there's folks, I care for people, but if you really check them out, they don't really care for people. They barely care for the people that are around them. They may care for some family members, but they don't care for all their family members.
Mm.
So it's like saying you care for everyone in your neighborhood when you got some, people who are very problematic in your neighborhood. You're kind of like, I wish these folks were out of here. Or going somewhere where the energy is so funky and whatever, people are very short and aggressive with one another, do you really care whether those people die or not? Come on, really, truthfully, do you care? People are afraid to say, I don't care because I might be considered a bad person if I say I don't care.
Yeah. Well, when I was asking my question, I was also rather thinking of those people who are conscious of Gaia, because I mean, if there is a tornado or a tsunami, the tsunami doesn't pick only like the bad people, but also like the people who are maybe more conscious and respectful to Gaia, but that they would fall into a bucket with like everyone.
Well, how do you know if those people are good?
Right.
How do you know? People put on, they put on facades all the time.
Mm.
When I was growing up, story come out, and not, a few, maybe every couple years or something. Some guy slaughters his whole family, his wife and kids. And the neighbors say, I don't know. He was a church-going man. He went to church every Sunday. He smiled and waved at me every day, very cordial.
Mm.
The system bamboozles all the time. Running actors all the time. I have some clients who struggle with people who smile at them and try to, and pretend to be nice under the guise of trying to sell them something or trying to get in and take something from them. The great thing about me being around this long as I've been around, I've run into that. I live in New York City, man. That's, time is kind of scammy also, but, New York is scam central, baby. Really, well-honed scamsters go up there with that smile and everything, and they wonder why a lot of New Yorkers are short with people, because they experience these kind of folks. There's a point where in certain areas, like in Greenwich Village, in certain areas, if you stand outside and waiting for somebody in the shop or something, someone will approach you and start like, hey, how you doing? And you'll find a lot of folks in New York, if you've ever visited there, have been around there long enough, someone shows up, hey, said, what do you want? Like that, because this is scam world. So that's scam city, this is scam world. So you don't know, they're telling you, oh, the innocent children, the innocent people. Consciousness is consciousness. You know where cruddy ass people come from? They were kids, and they were cruddy ass little kids before they became cruddy ass adults. So literally it's, that's right.
Literally, you said any consciousness that is truly balanced or is balanced enough is willing to die or transition for the help of Gaia.
Yeah, that is true sacrifice. And it's not the scary religious sacrifice of hell and heaven or hell. There is no heaven, there is no hell. There's only universal consciousness out there.
Only those who have imbalance within them that are afraid of death.
Well, they train imbalance into people so that they fear death. Fear is something that's natural. Because, regardless as to whether the person transitions from a hurricane or a tornado or an earthquake or whatever, they will transition at some point. There are other cultures who don't believe this, they believe in transition. Even just talking about ancient Japan, where these warlords and whatever, these guys didn't have a problem with taking their own lives.
It was their honor.
It was their honor. It was being honorable to take their lives. So getting past the fear of death is really what it is. They're tapping into people's fears that have been basically installed in you by the system. They show you things, you read things. I've been really enjoying getting into a lot of folklore lately. And a lot of it has to do with, conditioning. Ancient folklore that's conditioning people to think a certain way or to believe a certain way. So when we talk about movies that we've reviewed, like, one for instance, Cinderella, targeted at children, but literally programming them into a certain mindset. So You know, even when I was like in my teens, the first time I ever, responded to someone say, "The innocent children, the innocent people, the innocent." I said, "Wow, you know these people personally? How many people are innocent on this planet?"
And, Chief, you said that if Dunya or Gaia is the planet, we are her guests. If she says get the fuck out, then we need to get the fuck out. You know?
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, music. So literally, yeah, we are guests on the consciousness, and the way that things set up, a lot of these genetics were not invited, but were brought here, and in most cases against their will. Like someone who, let's say, war, and they ravage one castle, and then they take prisoners, and then they drag those prisoners and turn them into slaves, as you know, on their conquest to the next place, and the next place, and the next place, and then they build up all of these prisoners and slaves, and then they use them as slaves, and they use them as whatever, however they want to use them. And this is how density works. You're in a war here, so I've even proclaimed years ago, if we would help the health and the balance of Dunya, Gaia, Earth, I will sacrifice my avatar. And I'm still there. This little micro world of nonsense that they've convinced people to believe in is just that. So hopefully it wasn't too harsh.
And also, Chief, on the NSTHA movie review, Ready Player One, it talks about how these bodies are holographic.
Yeah, they're holographic illusions, literally. It goes a little bit more detailed than that, having to do with crystalline structures and all this other business. That's, I'm trying to get these books done, but some of that stuff will be addressed in there. And there's been studies about, the essence of a human body and certain materials on the planet when they look under a certain, like an atomic microscope. It breaks down and breaks down, breaks down and breaks down to the point where everything is crystal. So even liquid is crystal. It just depends on however, or the, let's say the size of it. And they talk about molecules and so on and so forth, But anyway, in these reports, others have seen that our structure and so much on the planet is crystal in its base properties. So yeah, we're thinking in terms of being affected by a holographic image also when you have the fear. It's like they instill the fear in you and tell you that you have to be a good person. To be a good person, you have to care about people. So there's a split going on where there's on one side of you just like, there's these people who just are a real bother, but I'm supposed to care about them. When they don't even care about themselves. So I don't know if there's any more you wanted to ask having to do with that, but that's where it is for me.
No, that answers is pretty good. I think it was a good reminder to hear that, yeah, we're just guests here and that Dunya decides how long we can stay, and yeah, that it's her call, basically.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's like people, they behave like density teaches them, so it's almost like they're like squatters' rights, We've been camping out on, it's just, there's, because consciousness on the planet have not learned what respect is for other consciousness.
Also, the fact that folks get so tossed that when you walk around Dunya Gaia, you're contaminated just being in places because of the amount of density that's loaded into the body, into the vehicle. Okay, Ms. A?
People have been used as a destruction system for many, many planets.
And so it's like a delivery system of poison.
That's why in all those movies it's about save the human race, because they need their delivery system.
Yeah. Yes, again, it's totally illogical. All right, I'm getting angry. I like it. But when they get angry, they show their heads because they're idiots. So, but it did kind of like say, I had a thought they'd come out. No, it wasn't you, it was when they did that. That had to do with just think in terms of tourism and tourism to so-called sacred places. Why do people feel compelled? Do they just want to experience the place? A number of people will go to energetic places, so they want to experience the energy in these places, but don't realize when they come in with this foul energy, they're literally contaminating the area and also sucking the essence out of the area. And I touched on these particular situations where, some so-called spiritual sites, some temples here in Asia, where if they felt that the energy levels were going down, they would take prepubescent, send prepubescent children in because their energy is more vibrant to recharge the temple. I had a relative who was in Egypt. This was well over 10 years ago, more, where they had closed it down from the general public, but then they brought in these school buses full of prepubescent children, in other words, elementary school children, to send them through the pyramid to recharge it because people were sucking all the essence out of these pyramids. So with so understand what the human has been turned into. But by doing this type of work, you're moving away. You're no longer becoming a delivery service. Let's say delivery system for density. Okay. All right. So we're going to. I think we covered as much as I want to on that. There's more to go with it. But again, just think about that when people are going to all these so-called spiritual sites, and then also see who's in charge of all the tours. A lot of times, these people aren't even from the country. It's feeding on these areas, and they talk. And there's talking about spiritual sites, or well, here's the deal. There's this compartmentalizing. There's the spiritual place, and that's a spiritual place, and that's a spiritual place. These places are just points where the energy, is pulsates very strongly and pulsated really strongly. But Gaia, Dunya, is a spiritual site. The whole planet is a spiritual site. Okay. All right. Then when you're ready, we can move on to the next.
Is New Age of any benefit to Dunya, Gaia, Earth?
No. And I know that there are individuals that have a hard time with this New Age stuff that's been brainwashed. Like doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. It ain't working that much. You get a little placebo effect, or some density gives you a little boost, and then it runs off. I want that boost again. I want that boost again, and spend like 20, 30 freaking years, trying to find this little boost, because they literally want you to believe in New Age. And New Age is, they take pieces from a lot of different cultures and so on, and kind of jumble them together, or other practices and jumble them together. And the only reason I can say it doesn't work, I decided I was going to, and those who've been on other forums and whatever, they know that I've been through that just to do research, just to see if it works, see how I felt. And it doesn't serve you anything. And a lot of individuals that I know, in other words, also, there's a point where you should be able to experience things yourself and come to some conclusion for yourself as to what you're experiencing. So what they do, they're kind of clever that way. They control basically everything. They control what do you call traditional so-called religions. They control the spiritual metaphysical stuff, and then the New Age stuff. It's like they're giving you a little choice of this, that, and the other to make you think that you have choices when you really don't have choices here. And one of the things I found, because like I said, I came in different, so I could see through things. Ever since I was a kid, it didn't make any sense, and had a hard time as a kid trying to express myself when others were busy with their blinders, walking around just doing the rudimentary things. So, yeah, my mind went into two different directions with this.
You did answer the question. Is
Yeah,
New
so-
Age of any benefit to doing a
Yeah, it's literally, what it does, it causes you to chase your tail. And one of the things I wanted to say about certain individuals that I've dealt with in the past, and others that I know of, who have been giving a little suggestion on how to do things in a shamanic way that work. And inevitably, their MC will tell them to add some New Age shit to it. And then it doesn't work. Then they come to me, hey, it didn't work. I said, I know my work. I know it worked. What else did you do? There's nothing. I said, muscle test. Boom, you added some New Age crap to what I do. Don't bring that shit into my house.
I gotta be me. I gotta be me.
Yeah, they said, yeah, I gotta do me, man. I gotta do me. But do you somewhere else. Why are you here if you gotta do you? Apparently, you're not getting the results you want. But you want to, your density wants you to believe in some nonsense, so you go to somebody who can do it, and then don't want to give them the credit for it. And I talked about this the last forum, so I'm not going to repeat.
Secret fetish.
Yeah, the secret fetish nonsense. So I'm not going to repeat that. But New Age, that's my attitude about it.
Huh.
And I don't care how much anyone wants to embrace that stuff. It's BS, and I can prove it to you. That is BS. You stack it up to what I do, and you will fall with that New Age crap. So don't sit here and think that you're going to get my stuff. Okay, it's okay, I can do me. You're going to do yourself right into the toilet. So anyway, moving on from this New Age BS.
Yeah, I know that some people struggle because that's their background. Because New Age is literally like a religion. But
Yeah,
they don't call it a religion so that they feel exempt from
Well,
it.
everything is a religion. Everything is a religion. They talk, I'm atheist. It's a religion. Because they get together as a group to say, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in Jesus. It's just another religion.
And fandoms are like that too. They get really angry at other people who don't agree with their fandom.
Right.
Ah!
Yeah, there's people who put, as Ms. Amy called fandom, putting entertainers in a deity position. And if anyone dare not speak, foul of my deity, of my, whoever it is whose music I'm into, and I turn them into some kind of a deity, you read the stuff, they get tons of hate mail. They say anything that slights this person. It's like a religion. I mean, some, threaten people, with death, threaten to kill them. We're talking about some soccer player or some singer, some actor or actress, or I guess they call them all actors now. So, did I cover it? Okay.
Basically, just like encouraging people to ask questions and separate yourself from the question. When Chief comes down on what you think, it is not, the thought is not you. sorry, Chief, can you explain?
Okay, you bet.
Okay, so some people, when they ask a question, like for example about New Age,
Okay.
they identify with New Age so strongly that they feel like you're insulting them.
Yeah, it becomes a religion. Yeah. So yeah, they feel like, oh, he's calling me an idiot. No, I'm just saying that you've been bamboozled like everyone else on this planet. This is a planet full of lies. If you're a kid and you have parents, that don't tell you jack, and most parents, I guarantee you, don't know jack, because they're in tunnel vision, they're programmed, they're brainwashed, or whatever you want to call it, to follow the system. Individuals who have decided that they want to, kids have an interest in some subject that doesn't fit the mainstream. A lot of times the parents will, no, you're never going to make money writing books on Sasquatch, or studying this stuff. I don't see it, so therefore you shouldn't do it. But to the credit of certain people, they stick with whatever they're doing because that's what they're feeling. Whether it has anything to do with density or not, the reality is that there are people who got into some really different types of things that wasn't mainstream, wasn't doctor, lawyer, teacher, fireman or whatever. And they stuck with it, and lo and behold, they end up actually being successful at it because that's what their conscious trajectory was.
And the lies have nothing to do with Dunya or Gaia. It has everything to do with this matrix they put on top of her.
So again, as Ms. A said, and got that information, it has to do, getting all huffy here, and hold on a second. It has to do with the system and the things that folks have been trained not to see, to ignore certain things that happen that are considered to be kind of odd. And a lot of you who are in the audience have had experiences with things that were considered to be odd, but also there's so many people who claim that they're not, don't believe all this stuff, who are in secret practicing all these things and praying to these densities on the other side. And I'm talking about from up and higher income people, so-called wealthy, all the way down to people who are considered to be poor. So it's a kind of a real interesting group. It's like the smiley face, but you don't really know what's going on behind that face unless you tune in to your exercises and you empath. You will read that energy. You read past the smile. And if you see someone smiling and you feel funny, go with the feeling that you're feeling. Don't go with the program, oh, he's smiling. Or she's smiling. Or he's handsome. Or she's pretty. But that's another one too. Get people to disarm themselves. Oh, so he's a world-renowned actor. When could that person be a world-renowned distraction, world-renowned dense entity? But because of the programming. So we're talking about programming again. People program to believe things. And then they hit you with some fear. So be afraid that if I stray from this, I might be lost. Lost where? I tell you, the way things were set up, you transition out, they take you right back into some other nonsense. So, you lost where? If you become aware, they can't pull the wool over your eyes, even if you transition out. And I dealt and have dealt with and still do at times with individuals who have transitioned out. Even helping individuals who transition out get away from this cycle of nonsense. So we're going to just go to the next question.
Next question. Chief, people always say to reprogram your subconscious mind. So I was wondering, what is your thoughts on the subconscious mind from a neo-shamanic perspective? And is there actually a subconscious mind, or is that a concept of density?
Yeah, that's a, well, we came up with that. The earliest definition of the unconscious, subconscious mind, the subconscious mind came when I was minoring in psychology years ago. And it was Sigmund Freud, who was part of the system, who brought that up. And do you have a definition?
Yes, I do.
And Ms. A has the definitions, and there's a number of definitions for this term. And once she reads the definitions, I'll go into, then you understand how I feel about it, what I think about them, okay?
So, Chief, do you want the one from Sigmund Freud or George?
Well, let's start with the one from Sigmund Freud, since I mentioned him
Okay.
first.
Freud viewed the unconscious as a repository for socially unacceptable ideas, wishes, or desires, traumatic memories, painful emotions put out of the mind by the mechanism of psychological repression.
Now, the way that New Agers use it is very different from the way that he uses it when he basically was the one who contrived the definition for it. So also be aware that there's a lot of stuff in New Age that has been like twisted around to suit someone else's agenda. And when New Age was coming out bigger, because they have these surges of the Enlightenment age, Enlightenment period, and so on and so forth, since the late 1800s. Second. So, yeah, they're really trying to be tricky today. But again, I don't want to go back into Sigmund Freud, but again, his had to do with pretty negative things, like places where you hide all your dirty laundry, in traumatic memories, where you hide your pain in the subconscious. So I don't see that part as as true. In reality, with all the pain gets stuck in your consciousness, your full consciousness. Not in when you talk about mind. When he's talking about mind, he's talking about here. Reality is your whole being is your mind. So again, we're going to move to the next definition, which might I don't know if this one's closer to maybe what some of the New Agers would believe.
Psychic activity that is just below the level of awareness.
Yeah, psychic activity that's just below the level of awareness is considered the subconscious mind. Now, piece of it is true. So that's another thing also. If you get enough definitions and you've done enough research, you can actually start to piece together something that actually will make sense. So the reality is, I'll read the other one.
Database for everything.
Yeah, database for everything is another one. So the whole concept of reprogramming a database or reprogramming this mind that holds all this density, and what I think your term would be considered New Age. Again, New Age, confusing nonsense. It has no validity. So I wouldn't worry about the subconscious. It does, in a certain sense, you put some of these pieces together, you can say, yeah, there's subconscious. They're saying,
They said it's not useful.
It's not useful. So it's a term that you can throw out, because I don't really use it. Every so often it'll slip out by accident, because I'm trying to put some pieces together that has to do with some of that terminology. But in the end, it really isn't useful. Reprogramming, again, stuff that doesn't work. But everyone has the freedom to do whatever they want to do. And again, as I've told before, I've had individuals who wanted to hang on to their little New Age thing and then run off. And I would say, look, that's not going to work for you. What I'm telling you is the truth. Well, okay, fine, do what you want. But just remember, that's not the truth. And then later here they are at my doorstep again. But the problem with folks coming back like that, they still want to hang on to some stuff. They can't let go of everything. So it ends up getting in the way. One of the reasons I like younger people is because they're actually still at the age where they're actually looking for some information from someone who has been on this, in this realm longer than they have. in this particular expression. So I tell them to do this, do that, and do this, and so on and so forth, and it works every time. Some who want to hang on to their I gotta be me, I gotta do me thing. Sometimes they get, I can definitely clear the hell out of you because they know that I'm real. But when you're on your own and think you're secret, it's like the people that, oh yeah, I don't smoke anymore, I don't really smoke anymore. Then they go out in the garage and light up. Then they come back in the house as though people can't smell the nicotine on their clothes. And that's what happens with folks who try to do that stuff to me. They're doing it to themselves. Because you're not hurting me, you hurt yourself when you do stuff like that.
The best way to reprogram your mind is to listen to Chief.
As NSTHA says. One reprogram? Actually, I don't know if people reprogram themselves. Not without help.
But if they listen to what you
but yeah, if you listen to me and do the things that I tell you to do, I used to say, I ask you later for that because no one wants to respect someone who's kind of like pussyfooting around. I want someone to tell me what to do. But even then, have problems with these, a number of people. They have problems with themselves really, because once you go home and once your session is over, I'm on to my business, and I know which direction I'm going in. So if you want to go out there and explore, you have the right to do that. But you're wasting your time. I'll honestly say that. You're wasting your time when you're not listening to what I tell you to do when you come to me to ask me what to do.
And the best way to reprogram is to listen to forums, read the books, and do what Chief says.
No, Ms. A hasn't needed. That's it. They agree? Yes, they agree with Ms. A. So. And these guys disagree. So. Well,
thank you. Okay. Next one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Everything happens for a reason.
Oh, okay.
Same.
Yeah, that's a dicey one, but the reality is, not everything happens for a reason. Sometimes, if you stub your toe on the way to the toilet, it's just that you kind of misstepped and stuck your toe. So that saying is loosely wrapped up in paranoia also, where people want to know every second of their existence. What's going to happen next? 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 But there are things that do happen for a reason. There are a lot of things that happen for a reason, but not everything. And that's the kind of, if you get stuck in this, everything happens for a reason, it can, you're giving them tools to really mess with you. Because they will do certain things for a reason, but then they're mixing them up with the things that are just random things that are happening. Again, do the work, your empath abilities rise, which means then you can determine just energetically how you feel about what's happening around you. So I would say that's, it's not true that everything happens for a reason. Okay.
The next question, how does the way that I think affect my health?
Totally. So again, people cause imbalance within their own health by the way that they think, and this happens a lot. So the system trains you into the concept of doctors, which was a growing thing over the centuries, to the point where I would say when I was a kid, there was a whole lot of belief in doctors. And even then, not everybody believed in them. But it was the older generation when I was a kid who were less believing in doctors than the younger generation at that time. So let's see. It's fatalistic thinking, which is the term that I'm coining, and we can see if it exists anywhere else. But it's fatalistic thinking. And to the point where I had to get away and stop talking to certain people just like were just acquaintances, because if I coughed, they would ask me if I was getting a cold. But you could be just coughing, clearing your throat, and that person would be getting a cold. And certain folks would follow up with, you should go see a doctor, so that he can actually, or she could give me something that will actually affect my health in a negative way. So the mind is very, very, very much, I should say, a part of your wellness, your balance. Again, of the concept of enlightenment. It is the mind. You know, folks doing breathing exercises. You know, it's you know, whatever. If you feel better doing breathing exercises, you feel relaxed. You might just be hyperventilating. The nose. Feeling a little euphoric. And opening yourself up to density to just feed on you. You can do your yoga, which is it's nice to limber up and so on and so forth. But if you're clearing out the density, or getting the density cleared out of your body, you actually get more limber. But I don't have anything against exercise. I like exercising. But I know that I'm not exercising for enlightenment. I'm exercising because my avatar feels better when I do exercise. So even with this, which is, this is kind of an exercise, but this is an enlightening exercise. But again, just by doing this, you're not going to reach enlightenment. You can clear the gunk out so that there's more energy that can flow through the mind body, so that any new information you get, you can decipher it in a way with your whole being. So if it feels funny, it is funny in most cases. If you hear a voice telling you it's funny, then that's someone lying to you. That's an MC or something. But you should be able to feel it with your whole presence. Now, again, that gets really iffy because, again, sometimes people will hear a voice that will actually tell them go left instead of right, and then, they miss an accident or something. So it's tricky. This is war. They fight dirty. They cheat. So the best way, again, do your exercise, get more tuned in to your energy. There's times that, when in the past, I never really had voices, but I had a knowing something's intent talking to me when I was younger. And even then, I check out the intent, and I would like, no. I think tightrope walking on a fire escape 4 stories up is not a good idea. So anyway, is there anything else to add to that? Something like missing. Yeah, a lot of doctors didn't really like me because I was just challenging. They wanted to be, who lauded as, some kind of deity themselves, a lot of them. When a whole lot of them make mistakes. I got, it wasn't a fight, and it wasn't much of a debate because the guy didn't have anything to stand on, where I talked about the number of people who cheat their way through colleges, universities, even these Ivy League colleges and so on. And there are a number of doctors, a lot of doctors too. Like, probably the numbers are pretty much the same across the board. If you got people cheating as, to get out as, I don't know, dentists or whatever, you got them cheating, on their tests or whatever to be doctors. So there's a lot of doctors out there who aren't even qualified to do the minimal stuff that they're trained to do. When I said that to someone, I said, there are a lot of people cheat their way through college, and those are statistics that oldest, I don't know what oldest they're reading that stuff. The mother unit was reading that stuff to me back in the 60s. That there are a lot of people who cheat their way through. And this one guy who was very system, he's like, no, they don't. I said, oh, really? How insane you are. So, every person, every university, that's how you know somebody's programmed. So they go, that's impossible. That's, whatever, in other words, just go against anything that you have to say that goes against what the system has shoved down their throat. And you run into somebody like that, the best thing to do is say goodbye and leave and never talk to them again. I don't give a shit if they're family members, man. I won't talk to people who are that jacked up, who are that programmed. So again, the mind is key to enlightenment. It's key to everything. And that's why they mess with the mind so much. And that's why you're programmed so much. It's almost like an addictive thing to watch movies. I have to see the latest movie. I have to see the latest movie because you're programmed to want to see the latest movie. And they put all this CGI and stuff in there, and you go, okay, wow, the story wasn't so great, but the visual's pretty cool. And they were doing this stuff. They really got into the CGI back big time. I say 80s and 90s or whatever. And the stories are just getting weaker and weaker and weaker. But folks are still going. I mean, I was in that group for a bit too. So why am I watching? This is all CGI. Story sucks. Why am I going to Marvel's putting out another one? Okay, all right, anything. It's just programming. You're watching it and you're being programmed. Also, they do the stuff through the ether as well. In subliminal way, through vibrational waves. Also very visual. Everything here has been designed to keep you in what I call the chicken coop. So again, mind is very key in health. If you feel weak, your vehicle is going to try to acquiesce to your wishes. If you feel sick, your vehicle is going to try to acquiesce to you feeling sick. Or not say you feel sick, but you think you're sick. A lot of hypochondriacs, and I have a number of hypochondriacs as clients, and that's a real hard one, boy. It's just that they're afraid to not be a hypochondriac. But we can go into some other stuff having to do with, again, fear of transitioning and so on and so forth, or just fear in general. There are people who are afraid of not being afraid.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we're going to go ahead and move.
Okay. So this question, I'm not sure if I wrote it down properly, but it says it is a phrase that states the different mindsets of the stages of enlightenment. So I think it's saying life is happening to me, life is happening as me, and life is happening for me, I believe.
Was it? Okay. Oh, you don't have it in front of you.
I do, but it's just that.
Life is happening. So life is something that's happening to me, which sounds like you're a victim. And what was yes,
so-
go ahead.
Yeah, so I submitted it. So it is a saying that basically shows the different level of your consciousness. So the first one is life is happening to me, where you're absolutely not conscious of what's going around and you're putting yourself always in the victim position. Then life is happening as me is like you're somewhat conscious and life is happening through me. And then you're supposed to understand that like we're connected to supreme consciousness and you're supposed to understand how this realm works. So these three sayings represent the different stages of your consciousness, and most people are in life is happening to me because we're putting ourselves in the victim position. So I just wanted to know whether it makes sense or whether it's also just like a dense saying because it feels weird.
They're about to answer that for you. What was the third one again?
Life is happening through me.
Through, yeah. It's really, it's like a trap. It's a lot of hope, for a nicer word for it, because it's too confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks for giving us a definition of each of the sayings. But again, when they're talking about life, it's something happening to them. It doesn't point to why is it a situation where life is happening to them, unless you know. But I think you added your own on that second one because you said supreme consciousness, And I never hear these guys say anything about
Yeah, yeah, that was my addition, but
yes, so, no, it's
yeah.
cool, it's clever. But anyway, what it is, there's a number of sayings that just are basically confusing. You know, one, it is the spoon that bends, it is not yourself.
Hmm.
You know, even in the context of that movie, I was like, that's deep, I must ponder that. 20 years later, I'm still pondering it. I think it's bullshit. It's just confusing. It's just someone saying something in a flowery way, in a poetic way, by the way that they said it. It must mean something. There's someone I knew who used to use a British accent and bump up his British accent when he didn't know what the hell he was talking about. Yeah, serious con artist. And throw a bunch of words together that a lot of your regular folk wouldn't know, but I'm pretty versed in vocabulary, and I realized words putting together didn't make any sense. They were just like, he's just throwing words. This sounds good. I'll put this behind this one because they got me cornered, and I'm going to flower my way out of this corner. And a lot of times they do, because folks were, there were a lot of people in America when I was growing up, there were certain foreign, so-called foreign accents that were considered to be quite intellectual or quite, romantic French, romantic language, or someone with a strong British accent. They are the epitome of intelligence, because the Brits said we're the most intelligent, and they put that propaganda all over the place, until you run into someone who's actually from England who said, oh, there's a lot of different areas in, in England, and there are areas where these particular folks we consider to be just total dunces. But because these folks are not experienced, they've been programmed to believe certain things through movies and so on and whatever, that they think that just because a person speaks a certain way, or they dress a certain way, or they look a certain way, that they must be more intelligent. This is more of a con artist, so. So I would say with those sayings, a lot of these sayings, they do smack of a new age concept. Like I said, they take a bunch of different things and put them together. And it doesn't, in the end, it doesn't really mean anything. There's a saying, I forgot which region of Africa, where someone's doing this type of rhetoric, where you're kind of like, and the person was an interview that was going on with a few people, and this one guy was trying to express his point of view, but knowing that it didn't hold much water, so he started doing, I don't know, like then doctor speak or lawyer speak or something speak, which basically means that these guys within that group will understand the language. This guy said, excuse me, can you put it on the ground for me, please? Now, if they can't put it on the ground for you, they don't even know what the hell they're talking about. And with that, even with their definitions, it's still not put on the ground. It's still, it still is just kind of loose and open to interpretation. Which you did interpret this, the second one on your own. You said, well, let me put it in this. The best thing is to just take it and throw it out. Yeah, and if you, again, don't mix it with anything that I'm doing. So if you want to mix things, you take it in your own little space and you analyze it, but don't mix it with mine, because it will interfere with what I'm doing. It will suck the life out of, in the essence, out of what I am giving to you. Or it will suck a lot out and you will get some effects, but you won't get the full effects of what I'm teaching. But again, if you want to experiment, I'm all for experimentation, but look at it as an experiment. Seeing this opposed to that. Like when I decided to not eat red meat, I got off of the red meat for a month. And then because it was an experiment for myself, I said, I am going to eat red meat, 1 month later. So when I went back to eating red meat, eating beef, I could feel it so heavy. But I wouldn't have felt it if I hadn't taken the time to actually experiment by not eating it. Because my body was used to walking around with that weight in it. And once I stopped, I felt lighter. When I ate it again, all of a sudden I felt exactly what I was, what I had been doing with myself. And again, I'm not going to criticize the parental units. They just knew what they knew. They didn't know much. There's a lot of things they didn't do that was healthy, but there was a whole lot of things that they bought from the system that was unhealthy. So, okay. I guess good enough.
Yes, great. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll move on. Oh, well, is anyone mentioned source? Yeah, they're probably saying source and to switch it from supreme consciousness. I think I think when individuals use source, they're not really clear, and that's okay if for them to not really be clear because they get all their information from the system. And the system defines to you, even when you're thinking that you're being, doing certain things alternative. And they say, well, what you're doing is alternative. I say, well, the proof is in the pudding. How do you feel when you're doing the things that I'm teaching, opposed to those other things that have been around and been recycled for decades and decades and decades. So the whole concept of source.
Use some definitions, Chief. Would you like to?
Oh, we actually have some definitions. Okay,
Okay, so here are some definitions about source, which is a new age term. So a place, person, or thing from which something originates or can be obtained, one that initiates. So would you like to share how that's different from supreme consciousness?
Well, in other words, what they're putting, it seems like they're trying to cover a bunch of different things at the same time. Supreme consciousness is the source from which all come into existence. Plain and simple. But the tenets of supreme consciousness has to do with the supporting of those consciousness that come from supreme consciousness. Therefore, it's not into beating others or interfering with the trajectory of others for some illusion of ego or gain. There's no concept that this is mine and that's yours. The words don't even exist. Supreme consciousness is about expansion, expression, evolving, but all with, in other words, working together in a sense so that what is done here is in balance with what's done here and there. And no one's going through an ego trip saying, this is mine. This is my secret. There's no secret because there doesn't need to be any secrets. Only reason there's secrets because people are doing really screwed up things. That's why they're always, trying to be secretive. Or they're being told that certain things that they're doing is so awful when maybe some of the things they're doing isn't awful, it just doesn't go along with their ideology. So then you have a secret, like folks who are into neo-shamanism or into what I'm doing, they would be secretive about it because they don't want those who are into these other things to criticize them. But there's a big difference, as I explained, between source and the definition of source and supreme consciousness.
So we would never consider supreme consciousness a thing.
No, supreme consciousness is consciousness. It's not a thing.
Not a place. Either.
Well, here's how you know when you're dealing with something that's very dense. Because they don't consider consciousness to be conscious. They consider it supposed to be a part of the whole. That's totally separate from the whole. Now, folks who even on, Gaia, Dunya, the Earth, who they're, on the planet. Well, I don't like nature. All right, well, nature supports you, man. I don't see it. In other words, it's literally for lack of better words, it's like it's an illness that's been introduced into people's minds to be separate. So there's groups who will call an animal an it, don't even delineate between female or male in certain countries, certain cultures, when everything is consciousness. Now, how I deal with that consciousness is according to how that consciousness reacts to me. So, if this dog or cat is a consciousness, how is that consciousness interacting with me? How toxic is that consciousness? Is it toxic? Is it just yin yang? Is it just, does it have some kind of balance or whatever? But it is a consciousness. Now, with the nonsense here, there is a setup where there are things that are damaged that will encroach on you. There's someone asked Dalai Lama some time ago, would he kill a fly or a mosquito? Because that's their concept, New Age concept of spirituality or being good. You don't do harm to anything. And it was kind of funny because he said, well, at first I just threw it away, and then I come back and I just more vigorously threw it away. Said comes back again. End of story. So part of the densities program about what is spirituality is to, bend over and let them get a good kick at you, whatever they want. Or even the, turn the other cheek, thing that when I was a little kid, I asked Mom, what's up with that? She said, don't mind that stuff because it's not real. If somebody slapped you, you can't get away, you slap the shit out of them and slap them hard enough the way they won't follow you. So there's this weird little balance, this little dance that you have to do in this world. So again, individuals who have it's part of the game, I'm going to tell a story. I'm into telling stories. So when I was in my teens, in my late teens, and I can't say that I was the swiftest, I was a playboy or anything. I was a worker for my father and family. So that wasn't, my, I didn't have that kind of freedom like a lot of teenagers at that time had to run around and date and stuff like that. But when I would interact with certain women, they go, oh, you're nice. I said, oh, okay, well, that's cool. I guess that's a start. Hey, you want to go out? Yeah. You're a nice guy. I want to be your friend. I just want to be your friend. I'm like, okay, well, I'm feeling my hormones and everything, but being this nice person never got that far until I realized that when someone said I'm nice, it was like a curse to me. And I would just like get angry and I'll be done. If I get angry and snapped at him, oh, you want to go out? Yeah. I know, weirdness. It's just weird. Anyhow.
They say that source can be obtained. Can supreme consciousness be obtained?
No.
What do you think about this obtaining?
It's claiming.
Ah!
So let's talk about obtaining. Everyone can obtain. No, it's like groups. I think I might have mentioned it about. I think I did. There are individuals who talk about the solar system, talk about Gaia, Dunya, Earth, talk about the universe. They'll say our universe, our solar system, our planet, and when they're talking about claiming source, it's like my piece of source, our piece of source. But generally, in most cases, they're going my piece of source. It is a European term, and it was introduced into the realm. There are certain cultures that had a lot of nomads, which means people who would move from one part of the continent to another part of the continent and been doing it for thousands of years. And certain other groups came in and started putting up borders and implementing my piece of this, your piece of that, my piece. That's all introduced by yin and yin. So that concept is a yin of yin concept of gaining a piece of source or piece of supreme consciousness.
You taught us that yin and yin is a hoarder. That's where it comes from. And that why should you hoard in a universe of abundance? That's what you said.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. That's enough. Ryan, this ain't a trooper.
Thank you. Chief, they say source is a place. Is supreme consciousness a place?
You are in the supreme consciousness. It's like the universe is out there. You are in the universe. Again, that's yin nonsense, separation from everything. So if you look at the supreme consciousness as out there or a place, you've already failed your journey because you're in supreme consciousness realm. Everything is in supreme consciousness realm. Just because you're in this anomaly, that's why you feel like, they want you to feel like there's nothing else out there. And I swear that they're still retarded enough on certain shows to say, is there other life out there? And I'm like, oh my goodness, how did the insane get in control of everything? The mentally ill run this joint for you. Literally. Like I said, I'm a little kid and that didn't settle with me. But you're gonna see them just shoving it down. You're gonna believe this bullshit if I have to kill you.
You talk about making turning lemons to lemonade.
That's what I was saying, right?
What you were saying about how they get you to eat their bullshit. You just have to put enough sugar on it.
Well, yeah. Well, we're kind of like moving into one of the sayings. If you have lemons, make lemonade. And really, in essence, when you look at it correctly, it is what Ms. A was saying. It's like, just put some sugar on it, and then you can swallow this crap that your body's like repulsing, and it's like, I don't know, I like lemons, but for this saying, it really is about literally, put some sugar on it, and it'll taste better. I don't know if any of you from the generation where you were getting the mom unit would get this medicine. It really tasted bad. And it was preventative, of course, at the time, supposedly, when there were already natural means that my grandma knew and had told her about. Even though my grandma was a nurse in the hospital, she was still doing some of the things that were just home remedies. They call home remedies to minimize it, but it was a remedy that was used natural processes to bring balance into your body. So the mom would pull out this really, I don't know what the heck this stuff was, but a little brown bottle, and pour it in a spoon, they go, and give you like another toxic thing to drink, like a soda, to wash it down. But again, that's like Mary Poppins. That's the spoonful of sugar. Makes the medicine go down. So or they use the term sugar coating things to make it more palatable. It's all in the same thing. So that just means I don't know how it will go as far as like information, but they'll make a lie fun. They make a game out of a lie or a game out of a program. You were talking about some time ago, Ms. A, about this game Simon, which is supposed to be fun. The thing reacts, and also like it goes along the line of that whack-a-mole game. So you just reacting. Don't think, react. But under the guise of it being fun, they're programming you to not really think and to be impulsive. Some said, well, I don't know if anyone ever said being impulsive was good, but
They have actually. When we were watching Ralph Breaks the Internet, she was like the Shank, the lady who was really cool. She was talking about how she respects his show of vulnerability, because he on cue cried.
Oh, you talk about, Ralph?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I
but
don't,
she's being manipulated also by the crime business.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are people who will say something akin to, I like that you're impulsive or something, but I don't know. It's like, now I've heard it said something different from that, because I have a hard time with that, believing that that's something like that.
well, I'll just share an experience where people, whenever, your friend is getting hurt or beat up or something, and you don't get mad right away, they get mad at you for not like standing up for them or showing an emotional response to whatever you're watching. Or like, for example, there was this movie that was like a sad movie, Littlefoot, it's like a dinosaur movie, and all the relatives cried, and I didn't cry, and they're like, why aren't you crying? And I'm like, because I don't want to. Then they're like, you're a monster, you're weird, because I didn't immediately start crying.
Well, because they're programmed, they don't want you to think. So the knee-jerk reaction to things, it has to do with, and they train you in that. That's like flash quizzes and things like that. That would always stress the heck out of me. That's one of the things I didn't like school at all, because it actually was about programming, literally. And I did a hell of a lot better once I got out of that institution. To the point where they thought that I went to some other higher learning institution because I spoke too well, or my thoughts were too clear or too interesting for me to have been someone who, who didn't like school. I didn't mind the schools I went to once I got out of college, high school. College that I went to, because I went to college that doing something that, teaching something I was interested in. But outside of that, again, folks feel that all your smarts are supposed to come from either this institution, that institution, or some holy book or something. And you're not supposed to be able to culminate your own thoughts and opinions about things. And if you do, or your own sense of observation, if you do, they immediately, like as they said, there's something wrong with you, what's up with you, or you're too slow, or you're this, when in reality, you're just thinking about whatever it is, you're putting pieces together. They don't want you, they're distracting you. It's like putting a puzzle together, and then someone keeps coming in and then pulling you away from the puzzle. And then you come back, and sometimes they'll like move pieces, remove some pieces. Then you go, okay, now I've got to put these pieces back together. But that's literally how it felt to me when I was having, I was going through my own original, or my own way of understanding things. Someone would inevitably, and was never really, not everybody in the family unit. There were those just, left me to, to my own devices, doing my thing. There was a lot of respect, I have to admit, in the larger sense, when I was growing up with the family units I grew up with. So we would get into our own things, we get into our own rooms, and get into our own things. But if you were in a family where you always have someone watching over you or looking over your shoulders, and then they always have something to say about whatever you're doing. Ms. A was, you were interested in art when you were a kid, and she was, you did your own drawings. I don't know if I should talk for you, but you're doing your own, like kids, you do your own drawings and so on. And her mother unit came and hijacked what she was doing and told her, no, you must draw the way that I'm drawing. So that she had, in other words, hijacking her concept of even just having an original thought or an original expression.
Yeah, and it damaged the way I drew for the rest of my life for now, because I began to think that I can only draw a good drawing if I can draw something exactly like someone else.
Yeah, and I remember looking at some of Ms. A's work. Those who know that I, for a good number of decades, I was a professional illustrator designer. So, and I did very well in that. So I know my way around art, but I never really was into people who were into fine art, because a lot of them weren't really artists as far as I'm concerned. But they have this little, blinders also in what's considered to be art. I'm a creative, and I know what creativity is. And when I looked at Ms. Zay's work, I said, you are an artist, but you seem to be like blocked up or something. Because she could draw, but her stuff looked stiff. And that had to do with the damage of this other person interfering with her natural flow. So it happens with individuals who express themselves in a very universal way. Like singing is very universal. It has to do with vibrations. When someone has a really nice voice or a really nice energy to the voice or whatever, so they don't have to have this, this same cookie cutter type of sound. But you do find that they try to put certain entertainers into certain boxes, and certain ones who were managed to actually, break out of it a little bit, they're still pretty much restricted as well. But they do it with anything that is naturally of supreme consciousness universe, which you are a part of, but have forgotten. And by devices of the system, you don't know where you are in most cases. Anyone who hasn't been here don't know where they are in any case. And I don't care if they come in with some intense, detailed scriptures about, the heavens and these deities and that deity and so on and so forth. Oh my man, that's about confusing people. When I tried to do all that stuff, I searched a lot of these, what's considered religions, and they got to the point where I had to devote my mind to something that I didn't feel helped me in a holistic way, just put me in a box. I just found myself moving away from it.
Some of the definitions say that source supplies all information or supplies information, but you said that those who are here in this matrix are shut off from supreme consciousness. So that's a total different thing. So where are they really getting this information from?
Well, they're getting this information, and you've heard about the Akashic records and so on, which is a pamphlet that is separate from the universal records. So in order for this to exist, it had to be hidden away until not that long ago from the broader universe, supreme consciousness universe. So what was the first part of that?
So they were saying that source is one that supplies information, but if this whole realm was cut off from supreme consciousness, source is nothing like supreme consciousness because it had to be only the information from this realm.
And they're not talking about supreme consciousness. They're talking about something else when they talk about source. Who's defining it? That's the question. What group got together and decided that this is the definition of source, or whether they decided that a lot of folks were distancing themselves from organized religion, so they had to find some other word that would represent God or something.
Yes, they said the divine or God. And you said supreme consciousness has nothing to do with the term God because the term God is created by
All deities are created by other consciousness. So there's a decision that this consciousness is going, but these types of deities that you read about in this world, from Greek mythology to other cultural, belief systems, guaranteed, Univian's fingerprints are all over them when they start talking about deities and gods and so on and so forth. And I have done the test going places where there's supposedly a deity, and I'll be darned if I find someone who claimed to be a certain deity. And I said, okay, that's interesting. I think you're a construct of someone else's mind. Deities, construct of someone else's mind.
damaged mind.
Well, definitely damaged mind. It's like putting people on levels, putting consciousness on levels. Supreme consciousness does not have levels. Therefore, there's not a hierarchy to speak. There are those who are older, in the sense, that have been around for, since they consider, the illusion of time isn't really an illusion, but have come before others. When I was raising my kids, I said, okay, I'm raising them in a way where I want you to move, if you can move beyond where I'm at, move beyond where I'm at. I don't have any problems with that. Most parents, and I experienced some of that as well, did not want you to move beyond their control. This is yin of yin thinking. This is density. Superior consciousness, everyone expands. And if I help my kid expand, and it's really hard in this, kind of nonsense, because they interact with people who are influenced by the nonsense. So they come back and kind of have to weed through things to set them on their path again to look. It's about expanding, and even if it's something, that's separate from what I'm doing, good. That is your trajectory to follow. And someone said, well, what if it's being a crack or something? That's not a trajectory, man. That's damage. A trajectory has one's interest in something that one finds to be enjoyable, but you don't have to always enjoy it. But it should not be just constant struggle after struggle after struggle. But I think, what's it? Yeah, I think, I think I touched on that pretty well.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely, thank you.
All right, so we're gonna move to the next one.
What are superstitions from an NST, well,
Chief?
NSTHA is you, Chief. So what is your perspective on superstition?
Superstition is a word that was created just to make fun of others. Now, there's a saying that superstition is what, not so much me, what I believe and you don't, or what you believe and I don't. So superstition is really a negative, word, because it separates. So if you're convinced, in other words, it closes a person down to another one, a person's experience, expression, human consciousness, shared expression, no fear of sharing expression or looking at what another consciousness is doing, because it's all in balance anyway. You know why this is going down? Because it's not in balance. It's like a cyst. All these things that are going on in this world, if you can get out of the compartments and the little tunnel vision and actually look at all what's going on, you'll notice that there's a great consciousness shift going on Dunya Gaia Earth.
Do you want the definition of superstition?
Yeah, let's get the definition that they have in the dictionary of superstition.
On one etymology dictionary says that superstition is false religious belief, irrational faith in supernatural powers, from the Latin word superstitionem, prophecy, soothsaying, dread of the supernatural, excessive fear of the gods, religious belief based on fear or ignorance, and considered incompatible with truth or reason, literally a standing over.
Okay, so here's the catcher. Who decides that what you believe is a superstition or not a superstition? So there have been folks who were in a certain religious, under a certain religious belief that looked at other people's beliefs. These folks are running around in grass skirts and so on and so forth. That's superstition they believe in. But if they turned around and looked at the little Christian who's pointing his finger, or any of the other ones pointing the fingers, they're saying that he believes in something that, can't be seen. They're just interpreting. They can't be seen. When I can pretty much guarantee you that those individuals have seen a hell lot more than the person who was accusing them of being superstitious. So how can you explain whether the concept of God exists, or any of the other deities, the concept of Jesus exists? Have you met them? Oh, they're doing all this research, and there's books. Well, who wrote the damn books? I mean, I never met these people. even religion says, all men are born in sin. Said if all men are sinners, then is it possible that the guys who wrote these books could possibly be sinners or liars? And so they said, oh well, you have to talk to my pastor.
They say, oh, but they're sinners saved by grace.
Yeah, what the F does that mean? Saved by whose grace? So it's literally it's a divisive word, superstition. The smartest thing is always to observe the others and what they're doing. You don't have to make a decision on what they're doing, because decisions are made out of fear anyway. So all the other cultures that I have had curiosity in researching or just observing, listening to, reading books and then now listening to more folklore stories from around the globe to see what everyone else's take is on spirituality, mysticism, and so on and so forth. And if anything, you'll find that most of them are related in some way. But because of the system wanting to hijack everything, hijack concepts of education, they have this, this group, they didn't get sophisticated until after this time, and that group, this part of the globe and that part of the globe, and so on and so forth. And there have been people who've actually done some research. There was a guy, decades ago, this guy named Joseph Campbell wrote these books, and on myth and something, I forget, sorry. But he was actually looking at these various cultures who supposedly didn't have any connection with one another, and found that they were believing in some of the same stories, like the Great Flood, or certain other happenings, or even the concept of what the moon really is. There's more than a few cultures that see the moon as a unnatural satellite. It's not natural. Even to the point where it came to modern times, where some modern scientists decided, let's check this out. It doesn't make any logical sense. This doesn't behave like something that's a natural body. But because of these particular ways of this divisiveness, they use words like superstition as a means to denigrate another group. But thinking that, I'm denigrating them, but that other group can use the same word and denigrate them. They're walking around not knowing they're being denigrated. So anyway, with that, again, that's what superstition is. It's a divisive word that has to do with just separating and not allowing people to actually observe each other in a very open and logical way.
Hi, Chief. It's Sire. I have a question.
Yes.
I learned the word believe through Christianity. Can you break down the definition for believe?
Okay, Ms.
Or like believe?
The definition first.
Yes, I will. Just a moment. Just as a side note for the last one, while I'm looking up this word, Chief, you taught us that instead of seeing things as the labels that they want to give it, God or devil or density or demons or source or this or that, to see it as imbalance or imbalance.
That's true. Just to end that last one, as Ms. A was mentioning, I believe that everything is either in balance or out of balance. So, I don't go with this is evil or this is bad or this is whatever. This is an extreme imbalance if individuals feel that it's okay to go around and, slaughter other people, rape other people, and steal whatever nourishments from others and so on. That's an extreme imbalance. Balance has to do with moving on your own path and not interfering needlessly with the movements and the trajectory of others. So you can get together and talk about one another's trajectories, and if one finds it interesting, they ask permission for the other to join them if they want to join them or whatever, and vice versa. So it is about either balance or imbalance, and this black or white thing is an introduction again of the yin religious realm. And so belief.
Yes, there's a lot of similarities between the word belief and faith. And I
Okay.
think that they might be intertwined. Is that true, Sayer? Like, is belief and faith kind of mixed together?
Yeah, definitely when it comes to like thinking about supreme consciousness and it's like, oh, I believe that it's true, but it's like, do I have faith in supreme consciousness? And it ties into like, oh, well, you're praying to supreme consciousness when realistically, I'm just grateful to be able to experience everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and every approach that you mentioned was religious. So, trained, and again, language is introduced as a limiter. There are things that you feel consciously in your energy, but you don't have words to describe it. And I would say that I would have a guess that every one of you have had something happen, something that you felt, but you don't have the words to explain it or describe it to others. That's,
Yeah, definitely the word love too.
can you repeat that?
I was saying, yeah, definitely when it comes to like feelings, like romantic feelings or just even love, sometimes you can't explain it, but you can like feel it.
Yeah, they define it, the system will define it for you, which is always something that's going to actually hurt. There's always, if you're going by how the system describes and the labels, and they're, and they try to like narrow it down to this little meaning. And with some of the definitions that we've read, they had like 3 or 4 different definitions that are accepted, but they don't coincide with one another. So when we talk about faith and belief, that's just another tool to prevent you from actually understanding that really is more of an understanding after a certain point. I understand that I am in supreme consciousness universe. There have been things that I have experienced that causes me to understand, and I have the nerve to just say I understand certain things and not other things. But when they talk about belief and faith, and I would say in Isaiah time, I said, I'm not a faith person. Because it's, for you asking the questions and certain other clients asking me these questions puts me in a place where I have to explain them to you in a way that you understand. Opposed to looking at some books, or there's times folks who, with some, group leader or whatever, and they want to know a deeper reason, why should I be following this? In a lot of cases, why am I supposed to be giving allegiance to this one central figure who says he or she is a translator for the higher up individual or entity? What I'm teaching is you to be connected, reconnected to supreme consciousness, so that you feel this freedom to actually sense what is right for you, or what's the proper expression for you, what's the proper thing for you to do, and so on, and not this really rigid, you have to, well, it sounds kind of rigid when I tell you to do stuff. This is sort of to get you over a hump, not so that you're imprisoned by what I'm saying. What I'm saying is to free your consciousness, free your ability and your comfort in expressing and looking at something, and while someone else is defining it, you can lay back and go, I'm not going to make a decision on that until I'm certain of how I feel about that. So faith and belief are another limited words that are designed that, you have to believe it. Wasn't one of them that you believe, no, I'm mixing up with something else. That was if you stand for, you don't stand for something, you stand for nothing. It kind of goes in that same vein. You have to believe, you have to have a belief, you have to have a belief. What's going to happen to you if you don't have a belief? Oh, this guy says, who's this guy? He says you go to hell. But who's this guy? Oh, it's a God. And I said, well, I don't believe shit from people I don't know, and I don't, tune into to see if they're telling the truth or not. So I'm not going to take their word. I'll give a crap how old the book is.
faith, belief, and hope are all feeding systems.
Yeah, so faith, belief, and hope, all feeding systems for density.
Chief, could you correct me? But it's not that we should have faith in supreme consciousness. It's that we should experience supreme consciousness through the things you teach us.
Absolutely. They don't like that. Because what it did, just put a real big wound on the concepts of belief and faith and hope.
Like,
Don't be afraid to experience
no!
something, but again, they say, well, I can experience some really foul stuff. But if it's something that you feel that is really elevating you, and it's not this, like this euphoric, where you don't even know where you are, but then they tell you, that's good, that's good. When you're experiencing what I'm telling you, you're supposed to become more aware of what's happening. Even if you feel a high, you're more aware of that high. You're not lost in the high. So again, freeing you so that you can free yourself and actually express things outside the boundaries of what you've been told. And when you're moving there in the right direction, oh man, out of the woodworks, they try to what is this? And they try to claim that what I'm doing, they're going to define what I'm doing when they don't know what I'm doing. They say, well, read the book. I said, have you read the book? No, because they're freaking Smiths. They're agents. Just here to shit on your parade.
Like Chief, what you just confirmed, that it's not about having faith in supreme consciousness, it's about experiencing supreme consciousness. Just like many of your clients here, they've experienced you healing their health and helping them, their mental state, helping them overcome trauma. That's the experience. That's the real. And that's why when they go to Reiki or go to New Age or other things, they don't have the same kind of experience because they're not experiencing the real. Ah! Shit.
And I mentioned before the number of Reiki people that come to me trying to, deal, because whatever's going on with their discipline isn't cutting it. So someone says, well, I've had a session with the chief, and man, it was wild, and I feel this way, and so on and so forth. And this person's been raking it up for a good while, and they're not getting the same reaction from these people. One, they're toxic. They if anything, they need a clearing to even be touching anyone else's energy. But also, they can end up with people with really nasty energy coming in and get toxic themselves. And one of the things I said a few forums back, why I made the decision last year, on top of a number of other things that happened, where I refused to just have in-studio sessions anymore. Because I'm tired of having to clear and wait till all the gunk gets swept out after someone with super foul energy comes into my space. With the energetic stench that comes off of them, that a person who isn't even sensitive, their eyes start to tear. So I think, I don't know if we got away from what we were originally talking about, but anyhow, so it was.
I think that was the answer, but if we can ask her if she wants more.
Yeah, is that okay, or did I get you lost? Anyway, did you get your answer?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay. All right, you're welcome. All right.
Okay. So that goes along with another question, and this question was about in some kinds of people who do energy work, should they wash their hands?
All right.
And you were talking about how when you had in-studio sessions, you will wash your hands.
Yeah. Someone did send the question. I don't know if you heard Ms. A, about washing your hands after doing Reiki and some other types of, healing and energy work. You should definitely wash your hands after touching other people's energy. If anything, after sessions, even the ones that are done, since we're doing them on Skype now, we take a shower after every session. Because especially Ms. A, she gets immersed, and we have a lot of protection, so she doesn't get totally inundated with the density that are on people. But there's enough of it on there where she really has to wash it off in order to feel more balanced after these sessions. And myself, I just do it just as a routine thing. I can burn it off, because that's why I don't get affected when I work on people really, with really intensely dense energy. But just because of Ms. A being in my space, it is considerate to her that I also just wash everything off of me after every session. And we have, what these guys do? Somebody has a problem with that. Maybe because people will start to actually get it and start washing their hands after they do these certain types of energy work.
And some people don't like whenever they see other people having consideration for one another because they would like that relationship.
Does that have anything to do with washing your hands?
The coffee.
Okay. Oh, you said the coffee.
Yeah, there's someone who's in that just wants some good.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to zero in somebody in the audience.
Shit! Ah!
And contain. Let's see. Okay, put it down. That thing, it smells like rubber or something. Anyway, all right, so we can move on without that little bit of interference.
Can I actually ask a question about the washing?
Sure.
Yes, me was I. What exactly is it? Is it the water that is so powerful that it washes away density, or is it just like the washing itself, like a meditative thing that I'm washing my body, or like what exactly is so powerful on washing your hands or washing yourself?
It is the intent, and
Mhm.
unfortunately, a lot of the water is filthy.
Okay.
you take a shower with tap water, but it is your intent also. But it's still just the fact that it is water. It will do a certain amount of cleansing, even if there's a lot of stuff. I mean, you're not going to wash off in muddy water, just end up with mud on yourself. But with water that's clear enough, even if it has some vibrations that are very, opposite of positive, it is your intent. While you're doing it, my intent is to clear and cleanse my avatar. So it's all about clearing and cleansing and washing, as when you take a shower, the outer skin.
Mm.
So it's your intent of what you're doing that helps. But water is very powerful, and that's one of the reasons that it got targeted over, I say throughout the throughout probably the 1800s, with when these factories and things started springing up in certain places, and throughout the 60s, and and still stuff going on in this particular century as well. So it has to do with the yin and yang targeting the life's blood, we could say, of Gaia, the Earth. You had something to say?
1 more minute.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's going back pretty fast.
Yes.
So, I mean, so you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's your, sorry. You start to exercise your intent. Understand, everything you do has to have intent. If you're doing the work that I'm teaching you, you have to have the intent behind it. I'm doing this because I desire balance. It's just even something simple like that. Just I desire balance, because the mind is very, very powerful. That's why it's always under attack in this world. So
Right.
we
Yeah.
have, so I think we're about, okay, so yet another forum come to an end. Didn't get to everything, but we will just roll it over to the next month. Also, a heads up, in September, I'm taking a well-needed hiatus. I've been at this, me and Ms. A, for 3.5 years straight without a break. And we need some time off. There will be no forums in that month. We'll start up again in October. No forums and no sessions in that month. But we're working on some projects, may introduce some podcasts. So we're actually working on putting that together. Hopefully that'll be together by that time. So if you want to check something out, what we're doing, you can check out the podcast. But we'll send more information and post more information later. Okay, so thank you for joining again. And thank you for the questions and the interaction. Very much appreciated. And everyone,
Thank you. I like
Thank
your hair,
you
Miss
very
A.
much.
okay, bye-bye.
Bye.